Within each and every role player lives this homeless character who wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. Today we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, looky here. It's the Murder Hobo Show.
Man.
Oh man, can you hear me now?
How about now?
Hello, Jesus.
Can you hear me now? Hello, my son.
Hello, Jesus. Welcome to the Murder Hobo RPG Show, episode 45, Community Questions, recorded September 29th, 2021. I am one of your hosts, Gary, aka the Murder Hobo, and I am here with none other than Uncle J Raz, better known in the superhero community as Jizzmaster J Boy, the Silly Stringer, or Buttstachio.
It's funny, my mom used to call me J-Boy until I slapped her. Said, you can call me J-Man now.
Wow. That's how you cross the threshold from boy to man?
Well,
mom slapping?
in the Raz household, that's how you become a man. You have to slap your mother and then, to assert your dominance.
Right.
And then you arm wrestle in a feat of in a test of strength. And then you eat 4 pies.
Wow, I feel like your mom probably like hardcore wailed your ass after you hit her.
Man. Dude, man, my mom, like, growing up, dude, I got beat so much, man. My mom would be like, it's 4:30, go get the belt.
Ding!
I'm like, why? She's like, because it's 4:30. So I'm
Yep.
like, all right, there you go.
It's beating time. It's absolute.
Yep.
Absolute.
Well,
time.
you know how that was, man. Being children in the 70s, man. That's how there wasn't no timeouts, man. The only timeout they took was your mom's arm got tired, so she took a timeout from whooping your ass.
Oh, that's true. My dad, when I was a kid, my dad's a truck driver. And if you've ever seen a truck, like a trailer mud flap, it's probably a good 10 mils, 12 mils thick, made of hard rubber. And my dad made a belt out of that just to, just for some good whoopings to make sure we knew what was going on there.
Mm-hmm. Did your dad ever pull this nonsense like, this is going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you? I'm like, no, it's not, Dad. You're not the one getting the ass whipping. My mom would do some bullshit like that. And I'm like, come on now, Armin.
Oh shit! No, my dad was he was probably pretty happy, but again, it was me and my brother, and we're shit disturbers, and we probably deserved every beating we ever got.
Yep.
Don't beat your kids, people. There's better ways to do it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Just shame them on the internet.
Right? Yep. Shame them. That's the way to go. This is a podcast about role-playing games because we likes them all, and we're gonna, like a couple of schoolgirls giggling over the latest crushes, we are gonna do the same thing. BS our way through this in an attempt to sound like we know what we're talking about, and we don't care if we're wrong.
Exactly. And we are an RPG entertainment podcast, and although you might occasionally be able to glimpse of a nugget of truth or inspiration from our many years of gaming experience, we promise that it will be unintentional. Also, please note that we stream this podcast live on Twitch and convert it to podcast format. You can check us out every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Unless something happens, then it will be another time. And you won't know about it. You just got to tune in.
Mm-hmm. You just got to be there.
You got to be psychic. You got to anticipate when we're going to show up. Mm-hmm. That's on you. That's not on us.
You got to be psionically inclined. Tuned into the Murder Hobo Show RPG universe is what I'm thinking.
I agree with that.
So yeah, on tonight's show, we're going to talk about nothing but community questions. We are doing this, Jay. Absolutely.
8-3.
100% nothing but community questions that nobody asked us, right?
Right. But see, we're going out, we're doing the RPG community a favor because we're going out and we're searching out these questions that nobody asked us, but they've just asked the general RPG community. But we're going to go ahead and take care of it for you. And also too, like, you got to tune in to get your question answered. But again, that's not our problem. That's a your problem.
That is a you problem. Yeah, sounds like that's what my kids. That's the new kids these days. They're like, that sounds like a personal problem.
Yep. That's a YP, not an MP. That's a you problem, not a my problem.
A couple of things right out of the gate before we get into community questions and hopefully don't get sidetracked and have to redo this as 46 take 4. Savage Supers, man. cleared 102,425 smackers. Congrats to Pinnacle. And we gets all the boxes, Jay. It turns out that we're not only getting a box to put everything in, but we're also getting a box to put the cards in, which is going to be pretty cool because the archetype cards are supposed to be a little bit bigger. So it's going to be a nice little 36 deck smackaroony to pop those into.
Yep. It's pretty nice too, because especially because what you can do with those archetype cards, if you're playing like a little one shot or something like that, you can always just dole them out and say, okay, you can play this. Here's the ones that are available. You just give me a name, and then there you go. You got something to run with.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we wanted to point out, if you've had your head in the sand, haven't been paying attention to the Dungeon Master guy on YouTube, man, I got beat to it. I found this the other night when I was looking through some stuff. And then the very next day, the Dungeon Masters guy, I can't remember what his name is right now, but he posted a thing on it. The next evolution of Dungeons and Dragons is going to be released in 2024. Now, I tell you what, although I'm excited for this because I'm curious to see where Dungeons and Dragons is going to take it, I feel like after they got their wang jangled with the 4th edition, I've never played it. I'd love to play it. But I don't know the system, so somebody's going to have to run it for me. But I would love to play it because from the people that actually got into it and played it, from what I understand, like Dave, the Digital Dungeon Master, he loved it. He said it was great. But the community at large really kind of takes a big poop on 4th edition. So I feel like maybe that is going to deter them from taking some sort of really big steps. You know what I mean? This is going to be like the guy was saying, it's going to be a 5.5. It's not going to be a revision 6. But I find, and I don't know if you're the same way. I know you don't play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but I just find that it has its style, and I don't feel like it's ever really stepped out of its box, other than 4th edition, where it just kind of got pooed on. So I'm thinking 6th edition might, or 5.5 is just going to be a bunch of the same. But I'm still excited to see what it's going to do, what changes they're going to make, that kind of stuff. And hopefully I'll be alive in 2024 to see it come to fruition.
I hope so too, man. It'd be sad. It'd be sad if you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? I just realized I might not have changed the Windows tick and framer thing, but we'll have to do that some other time. So that was next on the list. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for more information. I think over the next little while we're going to get a bunch of cool insights into what they're going to be doing. Aaron Holt, shout out to Aaron Holt, reached out on Sunday when I was we were doing our live stream at 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Every second week you can watch me do an actual play where I run my players through Savage Worlds to the last parsec. We're doing Iron Gate, which is fantastic. There is a guy called the Yodax that makes some incredible assets and some wickedly cool maps. And he just so happened to have, I want to call them some junkyard theme maps that I full-on stole and manipulated for my own purpose. So the last bit of deal that I've been going through has been running my players through this three-dimensional junkyard where these Tanzanian... Hey, you know what I found out that I didn't realize? In the last parsec, I was reading that it's a Tanzanian dropship. And then when I was looking up the Tanzanian things, I'm like, it says the Tanzanian is the name of the Rakishan homeworld. So that's the cat people live on Tanzania. Did you know that? I know you didn't know that, did you?
Oh, I didn't know that. No, totally bypass it.
It caught me off guard. I was like, oh, I guess that's where they come from. Anyways, they do in last parsec. So, I've been running them through that. And Aaron Holt reached out, and now he's going to be one of our new players. I'm going to start him off. We should probably talk about this, bringing players into an existing campaign at some point. Other than that, there's two other things I want to touch on. I'm going to shoot over to main page with the monitor deal over here. Oh, this should shoot up to the beginning. Can you check that out there, Jay? What do you think of that?
Yeah,
action?
I just downloaded my copy of it just a little while ago. It's funny, I'm not getting the notifications from Drive-Thru-RPG that things are being updated, so I just had to take it upon myself just to go out and make sure. Yeah, because I wanted to look at old Forget About It. Forget about it.
My screen's going to go a little wonky here, but that's okay. I can quickly fix that because it's right monitor. This program, One Bookshelf, you can't really see it, but it's the drive-through program that syncs your library, has a thing that says not downloaded. When you hit the sync library button, anything that you've received or any updates or any of that kind of stuff that you're not receiving notification for, there'll be a little ticker right here that says has notifications right up by all downloaded and not downloaded. So I clicked on it. I'm like, oh, I finally synced my library again, and I clicked on it, and yeah, it turns out that the old print and play Forget About It is out. And this is our buddy Eric Lamoureux that I did the Wild Eye podcast with and that we're good friends with. He has put out a 5th anniversary edition, which is pretty sweet. The same old goodness, if you're familiar with it. The idea behind it is pretty cool. It's just an adventure where you play mobsters. The mobsters are taking an accountant that's in the trunk out to the desert to bury him, and hilarity ensues along the way. Which is funny because Sean Kelly over at Gaming and BS constantly talks about Forget About It and plays it, and he's always talking about it. And so in this edition, Eric stuffed him in the trunk. He's like, Sean Kelly's going to be the accountant. He's in the trunk. And yeah, I thought that was a cool thing to do. But if you're unawares, there is an update. 5th anniversary edition of Forget About It is out, and it's been swaydified, and it is stunningly beautiful.
Yep, and what Eric ended up doing too, which I thought was pretty clever. Instead of like hard and fast characters from the original one, where you essentially played as 4 or 5 mobsters, and now these new archetypes are more associates rather. Because you can be male, female, blah blah blah. You don't have to be Italian to be tied into the mob, so you can do whatever. And we actually play tested this a while back, and it was really fun. Mm-hmm. And all you got to do, and it's really this. Like, you hear a lot of people talk about this in the community, and I think it really kind of like broke a lot of ground as far as like how to create a one shot or plan out, because I mean, all it is, there's nothing set in stone. All it is just a bunch of complications that you can throw at your players, and that's entirely up to you. And you just let them run with it, and you just go from there. It's pretty clever, man. I don't like that. That's a good way to. It's a good design choice, I believe.
Yeah, it should win an Emmy for like best one shot ever kind of a thing, right? It's that good. It's quality stuff, man. He's a good writer, talented fella.
Yep.
Smart individual. He's caring. He's kind. If you're down and feeling out, he'll give you.
Handsome.
Yeah, he'll be the first person to give you a hug. He's a cool cat. He's the best dude ever. And speaking of cool cats, Jay, we've talked about this before on the show. Cool cat Richard Woolcock has a new release out too. He's writing one adventure per month for his setting, Tricube Tales, which is very, very simple, like peeled right down to the base layer game.
It's not even rules light, man. It's like rules like ultra light. It's like barely rules.
It's like rules not light, not non-existent. It's that light. It's a D6 system. You roll some D6s, beat a number. I think it's very PBTA-ish, right? You roll 2D6. Mm-hmm. You got to, if one of them is over 3 or if one is 4 to 6, it's a success, and you carry on, right? And it's got 3 traits, 3 things that you can pick. There's some cool stuff on character creation. You just pick a concept, captain, first mate, gunner, right? That's really all you need, is just who is my guy? He's the navigator. Navigator would have these skills. Choose some quirks, and he's got some karma and resolve tokens, and you just make up your name and stuff. But anyways, he's got a new adventure out. He's doing one a month for his Tricube Tales thing, and you can catch him over on Drive-Thru. Throw the guy some shekels, man. He's an amazing guy that just contributes so much stuff to not only the Savage Worlds community, but now with his Tricube Tales, the RPG community in general. He's a stand-up fella, man. He's a fantastic dude. I love Richard. Yep. I'd make some sweet RPG lovin's with him.
He's a solid guy, man. I like Richard. I haven't talked to him in a minute. I need to say hi to him. But also, Richard, probably the most serious cat in RPG in our community whatsoever. I know he's got a sense of humor. I know he's got one. I mean, he created Saga the Goblin Horde, but like to see him crack a smile, I heard it's very, it's almost legendary, because you never see it happen.
Yeah, Manny Sams is the same way. Like, I think it's a German thing. Oh yeah, man. Just super serious, right? I don't think those guys have smiled since World War II.
Right. It was funny. Is Woolcock? He's an expat. He's English, and he lives over in He lives over in Germany, pretty close to Munich. I guess that's where he works, and I don't know if his wife or anything's from there, but yeah, that's where he hangs out, man. Like he hangs out over there with Manny Sams and Conrad Erasmus Neubert, Father Conrad to us all.
Mm-hmm.
Our spiritual advisor here.
Something to note is I don't know if you ever go on Reddit, but one of the subreddits is called Data is Beautiful, and it pops up every once in a while with the fastest growing chains, the biggest YouTube users, and et cetera over the last 20 years. Man, I was not aware that Germany has been among the what do you call it, the not the global, the GDP, global distribution something or other of money, right?
Yep.
But they export or have like one of the highest economies above China, like right up until 2015. There's like America, Germany, I think might have even been first. Like, man, for such a small place, they had a huge GDP. It was way up, like crazy.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. Germany, because like the auto app, they're known for being, they're like known for the auto industry out there. Of course they produce like Mercedes Benz and I'll help BMW and Volkswagen and all that. So they're known for because of the high end automobiles they make. Man, that's why they're able to produce such a big old honking GDP.
Yeah, anything that has to do with machines and machinery and engineering and that kind of stuff. Those guys they kick ass and take some straight up names.
Yeah, I lived in Germany. I was stationed in Germany for close to 2 years.
Yeah, did you get to Oktoberfest or have some Wiener Schnitzel?
Oh yeah, oh God, yes, man. In fact, they have like, what's funny too in Germany, they have something called Fasching season, which is the fest season, and that's pretty much, you think it's like a mix between, I want to say Halloween and like and Christmas, man. It's pretty much just like 3 months of like just partying. So yeah, if you're not careful, man, you will party your ass off when you're over there in Germany.
Had muted myself there. Yeah. Did you get yourself some Wiener Schnitzel over there, or maybe just some Wiener?
Yeah. No, just no. The Wiener Schnitzel is what I got. Well, you got you can get the what is it? You can get they have the sausage. They like currywurst, and you get all kinds of German sausages. German sausages. I figured your ears perked up when I said German sausage, so there you go.
I know, if I ever wanted sausage, I know where to get it.
Yep, that's exactly where you go.
All right. Well, let's. You got anything you want to add? Anything you thought up or wanted to mention?
No, man, you got it all covered. In fact, that seems to be all the news for the week. I was just, just the supers. I'm just waiting on the PDF, man. I'm just waiting on for them to deliver that so I can start work on some stuff.
Cool. All right, smash this button. Let's get after it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just... The volume must be down on it. Which is exactly what happened. Let's try that one more time. Community questions. I got quite the singing voice there, don't I?
Yeah, it's a very melodic. Puts me to sleep.
All right, so on this edition of Community Questions, we're going to start off with something that was asked of me on YouTube's. MT, I don't know what MT stands for. Michael Thomas, Michael T, M Morn T, I don't know. Massive TDs, maybe? No? He sent me a text, or sent me a comment asking, he said, and this is, I got to emphasize this because Lamoureux's always like, nobody ever asks your questions, but in fact they do all the time. They just aren't really suitable for community questions. Like usually they want my phone number, or maybe my Snapchat, my private Snapchat, things like that, right? Yep. He says, I see your gameplay streams. You occasionally talk about some of the shortcomings of ICRPG. Do you have a video already explaining your experience with the pros and cons of ICRPG after running a whole campaign with it? If not, what is the rundown of your thoughts? I'm about to start a campaign in ICRPG and wondering what to prepare for. This is going to sound like it's me taking a dump on ICRPG, but it is absolutely not. I played that game for a year. It is top notch. Master Edition is out. There's a bunch of changes to it. But I played second edition. and I'm just going to talk about some of the things that kind of annoyed me, or that I found out were not ideal, I should say, because there really is nothing to say poorly about ICRPG. It's fantastic. I love it. I am an immortal supporter on Hank's Patreon, and I have been for I don't know how long. That guy's a cool dude. He gets my money. He's been on the show. Nothing but respect. Starting off with number one, hearts are dumb. I just want to throw that out there. I don't like them. I don't like the idea that a single heart breaks down into 10 things. I've said it before. It just seems like a clunky system where you go from 5 and you get hit and all of a sudden you're at 42. It's just weird. What I would have liked to have seen, or what you can change in your own, is change hearts to more like a Savage Worlds wound system. We've talked about this before. There's other ways to doing it. Have all your dice ace. So if you roll a 6 on your weapon damage, just roll it again. Add it up. It's going to at some point stop. If you beat the armor class or the hearts or whatever, 10, then you take the wound off and the thing dies. You can figure out a way to get around the heart system. It's just clunky to have to break down things. The next thing I want to say dealing with hearts is that 5 hearts aren't enough. In second edition, there's a couple of mechanical items that you can get, like the bow. There's a bow that you can get that if you shoot over, if you roll over a 13, and bear in mind, you can add +6 to your roll, to your dexterity. And if you roll over a 13, you get to shoot that bow again. Daryl, one of my players, literally took out 5 of 8 kobolds just by repeatedly shooting them over and over again. And I was just, what I did basically to solve the problem was I just attacked Daryl with all my kobolds. I was like, you're getting it now, mister. They see that you've killed all their friends and relatives, and they hate you, and you're going to die. So I mass attacked him. But therein lies the problem. You'll find gear sometimes where it allows players to do quite a bit of damage. And if you're playing with 4 people, and each of them does a minimum of 6 plus weapon damage plus whatever, by the time it gets around, you could potentially do with 4 players 25 hit points. You have to incite a lot of invulnerabilities, which I feel personally is cheap. There's ways to fix it, but it's just a problem that I found. I came after them one time with a vampire, and vampires have certain immunities, but not to magic or spells. And they dropped a swarm on him the first round, and like within 2 rounds, this what you would think would be pretty much an immortal creature, they had spelled him to death with swarm spells and other magics and magic items and stuff like that, and they just nuked this vampire. And with 5 hearts, I even buffed him up because I don't think they have 5 hearts. But I just feel like 5 hearts isn't enough, which pertains back to the first thing I said. I'd like to see that be a wound system where they can absorb some of that damage instead of a hit point attrition system.
Yeah.
The other thing to look out for, which is a thing that is at the same time both cool and shitty at the same time, is the round table. When you're playing ICRPG, the gist is you want to go to the first player to your left. You want to deal with them or interact with them until they roll the dice. That's what you're trying to set up. You're walking through a forest. You're trying to set up, he's like, oh, I'm going to keep watch, roll a notice. And then you move on to the next player. The idea is to get them to roll dice because that's what we all sit down at the table for. Roll some dice, try and succeed or fail at some things, right? That's the premise. Now, in ICRPG, it's set up to go around the table, but here's a problem that I came across numerous times. You're walking through a dungeon, you come to a locked door, but you're on the first person that's the warrior. He looks at it, he's like, I'm going to smash it down. Somebody else is like, oh, that'll make too much noise. But then the next person is maybe the cleric or the wizard who also can't pick the lock. And so you kind of have to bypass them to get to like the third person or even the fourth person who actually has the lock pick. But you're doing this round the table thing. Now, again, there's ways to fix it, but it just makes the story awkward and clunky. So what I did near the end was I changed it so that I still did round the table, because the perks of it, especially playing online, are that it eliminates a lot of people talking over one another or not saying anything at all while they all wait for somebody else to say a thing. Again, talked about that before. How you fix it or remedy it is keep with the round table, but just open up. It's not left to right. It's just everybody gets to take a turn. And then once their turn is done, you carry on. So when you come to a locked door, you can immediately go to the third or fourth person and say, okay, the rogue can say, I'm going to go pick it. We start rolling some dice. Back to the cleric, he's like, I'm going to cast, some buffs. And you know what I mean? It makes it a little more free form and open, and it makes the story flow a little bit better. So although I think the round table's cool, I would definitely change that way and keep it less strict. Another problem is gear. Gear can be OP. I just talked about the bow that lets you repeatedly fire. There's also chainmail that you can find that will, if you are missed, allow your armor class to go up 1. A lot of stuff in ICRPG isn't written to an extent. It's all shorthand because that's the premise. It wants to keep everything sort of tight. The problem is that because it's so tight, there's certain things that just might be missed. Like this hauberk, for example, it just says every time you get missed, add 1 to your armor class. It should say cap at 20, which still sucks because every time I come around to the player wearing this hauberk, I need to roll a natural 20 to do anything to him. And that's kind of dumb. I realize that it's a thing that happens in 5th edition, but when his armor class is normally 12 or 13, and I've missed him a couple of times, and now it's a 20, I got a 5% chance to hit this guy every time, or less. You know what I mean? Like, because you need to roll like a natural 20 in order to hit him, because it doesn't say that it caps at 20. He gets 25, 30, 35, right? So it's all about interpretation, but there is gear like that. My note says premise with roll the dice. Oh, here's another thing that I found that's kind of broken. Some achievements that are in the game, which are like when you level up, you gain an achievement or something like that. You get to pick a new skill or a talent. One of the problems that I found with ICRPG is some of them are mechanically broken. I'm not 100% sure what it's called, but there is a skill that you can take as a level up, a milestone is what they call them. And what it does is if you don't act on your turn, you have a pool of like 6 D6 in front of you. You can pick up one of them, usually the lowest one, and you can roll it, and whatever it lands on, you can add at a later date. The problem with this mechanic is it says you can choose whichever one of the dice you want. So it lends to this idea that player won't take a turn if nothing interesting is going on. If you're walking through the street and it comes around to him and, you throw a merchant out in front of him, bumps into him or something, he'll be like, maybe he won't make an action or do a thing. He'll be like, that's good. I'll just kind of hang back and watch. Won't really do anything. He picks up one of these dice, he rolls it, it lands on a 6. Now, when it comes back around to his turn and he's in combat, he's going to take that D6 and add it to his dice. And he has a pool of them, 5 or 6 of them. It's kind of like an I win button. And it's a shitty milestone to take because it breaks, or at least it's like an I win button. And that's one of my big problems. There's a lot of gear in this game and a lot of things that I don't think have been played out that will lead to I win buttons. So I think when you start your campaign, MT, you should premise it with the idea that the rules might change if they show up as an I win button, because there's, like I've said, quite a few of them. If you're going to play Master Edition, I noticed that the speed quiver wasn't in it, so there is no more rolling over 13 to repeatedly shoot. I guess somebody figured out that that's a little OP. And you are now, there's a few other changes. You add 6 points to your stats, and you get an extra 4 points. And there's quite a few other changes. We're not going to talk about that. But anyways, that hopefully answers your question. Certain things to look out for. There's certain achievements, certain milestones, certain gear that when you start playing with, you'll realize sort of immediately that they are gimped. So my suggestion to you with this would be break their stuff often. Somebody attacks them with the sword, break their armor. You know what I mean? Things like that. Break their gear so that they get used to the idea that they don't get to keep their shit forever. And when you find something OP, melt it off them and have an adult conversation, but that's kind of how you got to deal with it. Other than that, ICRPG's top notch. It's one of my 2 favorite systems. Probably the only 2 that I would ever run if I was stranded alone on an island, I would take with me, I should say. But yeah,
That's so funny how, like, if you're going on a desert island and you don't have anybody with you, you ain't gonna be playing RPGs.
yes, I am, and I'll need a rule book
Yeah,
too.
with the coconuts.
Hell yeah, with my
All
I'll have
right, Jerry.
have one of those balls. I'll find a soccer ball, put a face on
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have your own Wilson or whatever. There you go.
My own
God damn it,
Wilson,
Wilson. You fudged the dice.
right? Stop making this. Isn't about you and your story. But
Wilson, you piece of shit.
those are my suggestions for ICRPG. I'm glad that you got into it, MT. I think, and I think Jake can attest to this, that ICRPG is probably one of the books that you should read to be a good or better game master.
I agree. I agree 100%. There's two books that I would recommend reading as far to hone your GM craft. One is the Apocalypse World. The Apocalypse World rule book, and then the second one is the ICRPG Master, or actually, yeah, Master Edition. That being the ultimate one right now. Yeah, that's the one that I would look at. Yeah, it has some great tips as far as like running a game, and a lot of stuff that you don't even think about. It's fantastic, and I can't. I used to shit on ICRPG, and admittedly, it's not really my bag as far like once you start thinking about it, it's not really my bag as far as like it's a D20 system with all of with all of these just like what Gary just mentioned. It's got all these little bits and pieces to it that make it a little bit different than a D20 system. But just the tips that are in there are invaluable. I can't impress upon that enough. Even if you don't run the campaign, get it. Just if you want to be a better GM, it'll help you out.
Yeah, get the second edition. Just read the GM Master's Notes. They're fantastic. Give you a ton of ideas on how to create pinch points, different,
Yep.
scenes where it's more than just fighting in a box kind of a thing. Things like
Yep.
that are pretty much invaluable.
It's pretty clever too because there's some elements in there that he takes from like MMOs and whatnot as far as like kiting an enemy and getting the main enemy away from somebody who can heal him and everything like that. So there's a lot of strategy in play there when he shows you how to create encounters. So yeah, if that's something that's you need some work on, yeah, pick that book up, man. It'll help you out.
hmm all right, over to some other questions that people didn't ask us. We're going to start with this one, Jay. Player has become too broken. I gave one of the players in my party an 11th level Eldritch Knight, an oath bow, because I thought it was a cool magic weapon for someone who wanted an archer build. Unbeknownst to me, this would prove to be my downfall, as he also has sharpshooter and elven accuracy, meaning that he has an insane crit chance, plus 10 damage, and is dealing close to over 140 damage when he action surges, and still insane amounts when he doesn't. Man, what level is this guy? 11th level Eldritch Bow, 140 damage. Wow. Anyways, it finishes up by saying, is there a way someone can think of countering this? Because other players have complained that combat isn't fun when he can practically solo at the ancient gold dragon. Take it away, Jay.
Well, that's your own damn fault for giving him something like that,
Take
isn't
that,
it? I'm
sucker.
I'm just kidding.
You dummy.
I'm just kidding. Like honestly, when I started running games like on a regular basis, you kind of like debate whether or not that it goes into that eternal question like how to balance an RPG and how to do all this. You don't. It's all a gut feeling, and you never know what's going to happen, especially if you play something that's not. If you're playing D&D, it's a little you kind of can expect. You know what to expect in D&D with Savage Worlds and other games. Where their swinginess is involved. It's a little bit different. But what I can tell you, like if you got something that's going to do an insane amount of damage to an enemy, then what you got to do, and if you don't want to take it away from them, if you don't want to say, oh yeah, that's too powerful and take it away from 'em, you gotta then what you got to do is you got to figure out an enemy that can somehow negate, or you got to give an enemy like some sort of special ability that's going to be able to negate what he's got going on. Like I'm not 100% sure, but like because D&D is not my strong point as far as like what like all the gear does or whatever. But in reading some of the questions, I guess they say that like there's certain are certain elements involved with like oath bow that you can only work on it once a day and blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm sure there's something in there that if you look at the rules, like just it once per. There's nothing wrong with a once per encounter type rule that you can slap on your slap on an item. It's like, yeah, you can do that once per encounter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't be doing that all the time. And in fact, like, I can't impress upon you enough. That's kind of what I end up doing a lot of times anyway. In my Rifts game recently, what happened? The characters end up fighting a witchling, and a witchling's pretty much like an evil, evil nasty spirit or what. They're just horrible little tricky little magic users in the Rift universe. And what I did for something cool, my wife, she ended up like trapping that she like enslaved, or not really enslaved, but she trapped that witchling, and she absorbed it into her staff, and now once per session she can call upon that. So she can use like the divination spell once per session to ask that witchling, a question or whatever about the future or anything like that. And it has to tell her the truth, but she can ask it one question per session. Something like that. So nothing overpowered. A one per session type deal is not overpowered in my situation, because the more that they want to use something, the more that the more that the character wants to use something, it's not really like taking anything back, or if you just put some triggers on it, or if you put some qualifiers on it, because I mean that they do the same thing in video games too. I mean, you have like what is it? You'll have like an ultimate power where you can use like once, usually once, like, and then it takes a while for it to recharge or cool down. So that's what I would do, is like, all right, once per session you can use this, this oath bow can, do this magic thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're still watching the channel, Jay, but check it out. The Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Rifts figure flats. Sexy times. Yep. I really wish they would do front and back art on these things, and then you put side to side, and this black piece would be the back art and stuff like that. But yeah, they're actually pretty good, man. They turned out not too bad. They got some cool cats going on here. Here's the cyborg. There's the glitter boy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's your adult dragon that you can play, because you could full on play like a dragon hatchling and stuff. The dog boy art's pretty cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You got some cyborgs.
Yeah, you got the Skelelobots, which I mean are perfect. A perfect foil, man. If you ever just want to, if you ever want to watch your players just wreak havoc, man, throw about 10 Skelelobots on them, and watch your glitter boy just go pow pow pow. Yeah, look at that. I like the top down slaver, and I really like that. You see that? Hold right there. You see that? That Mountaineer Mark II. Scroll up a little bit.
Scroll up.
Yeah, I like
that.
One here. Yeah, that's the slaver. I like the top down slaver, but that Mountaineer Mark II. That's what my players have. That's what they're driving around. That's what they're going to drive from all the way from Castle Refuge all the way out to Arsno. That's their end goal. And so that's pretty much what this what my campaign is going to be about, is them making the trip from Castle Refuge all the way out to Arsno, because they need help to go to the Vampire Kingdoms, because they're going to need some allies.
They got some.
They
got some cool stuff, my dude.
Yeah, they do. It's fun.
Where were we at? Oh yeah, back to what we were talking about, because we like to get sidetracked over here. I would also do different things. Good side quest, man. Somebody comes in, steals this weapon. I'm sure it's a highly sought after bow. He must keep this thing under lock and key. You maybe break it, like I said before. You maybe get your players used to that. You know what's really weird, Jay? When I was younger, when I first started playing D&D so many years ago, I'm pretty sure in one of the first edition or second edition books that it says in there that you can't break magical items. And if it doesn't say it in there, that's how we played. So we would get these things and you couldn't destroy them. And it's just, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, when you're 8 years old, man, that's a pretty dumb idea.
Right. Well, also too, you don't necessarily have to break it, but it can like lose its magical charge there, and you have to go take it to a crazy old wizard hermit to get it, to get it looked at too.
Yeah.
So you can side quest it.
There's
and
another
also that's kind of fun too. Like the biggie, like the big bag can like cast some sort of like curse spell on it, and you're like, oh crap, and then it doesn't work that well the second time, and then you have to go take it to you have to go take it and get it uncursed.
Yeah. No. Right.
Go see a crazy cleric.
Yeah.
Go see a crazy cleric who knows how to do all this stuff, and then you got to go, do something for that crazy cleric.
That sounds like a fantastic idea. A side quest to get it up and running again. It runs out of power. Maybe it has its magic siphoned from it. It gets stolen. It gets broken, and they need to go find like an ancient artifact or something to fix it.
Yep.
but it'll take it out of the game without sort of taking it out of the game. You tell them you can repair
Right.
it, but they got to go do this thing. And
Yep, it'll still do like crazy bow damage, and it's still like a very high level weapon. But the magic, the magic component that the dude's been using to wipe out your bad guys, man, it doesn't have that special quality right now, and you're not taking away from them. You're just saying like, okay, it's been cursed, so now you got to go get it fixed. So
cool.
that's fair.
All right, on to the next community question. This is I don't know how you're going to feel about this one, but this one reeks of spoiled baby to me. Check this out. Player told me she wants to survive the big bad evil guy fight. I told her she's probably good, but I won't make any promises. The campaign is pretty run of the mill, and there's a few deaths already. She told me she's going to sit out the last session. Then I'm just wondering if this happened to anyone before. What is happening here? I don't know. That just is like, I'm a spoiled baby and I don't want my precious little shiny to be broken.
That's kind of the impression that I'm getting too. But like, I feel I've experienced this, like not on my end, but I had players that were like this too. Like, it used to be, it's a whole different world now. And we're all aware of that. But it used to be pretty commonplace, and you'll back me up on this. It was when you went and played an RPG, you knew it was going to be deadly. You knew that you were going to die. Like, I'm not even talking about like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm talking about like just any RPG. We played Shadowrun and we played Champions, and Champions is a super setting, and we have people die all the time in Champions. And it was just standard. Like, okay, if you're going to play a game, you need to make a couple characters, and don't get super attached to them. But it's not like that anymore, man. People really, really get into their characters. But at the same time, too, I don't blame the person, if they've invested a lot of time in their character. But at the same time, too, they're trying to control what happens by not participating. And at the same time, too, like, you can always pull this maneuver. Like, all right, fine, you don't have to show up, but that doesn't mean your character's not gonna be there.
Yeah. Round 1, you get vaporized and turned into a pile of pink mist by the big bad evil guy.
Right.
Oh, you're horrible.
And what I'm just saying too, like, because I've heard GMs that'll do that. Like, you're not there, but what are we going to do with the character? The character's still there. The character just decide to, while you guys are go fighting the big evil bad, I'm going to go ahead and duck away or whatever. Nah, it doesn't work like that, partner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but really, honestly, that's me just being a shitlord. But honestly, I just sit down and talk to a player like, what? All right, what's the deal here? If you're afraid that something's going to happen, like, we need to talk about this. I mean, and make an impression like this is what happens. Like, people die in these games and everything. And I know that if you're invested. And also, like, I just say I can't promise anything. What happens or whatnot. But at the same time, too, like, it's not that big of a deal. You can always make a new character.
Yes. Well, here's a couple of things that I would do. First off, I would want to sit down and say, why do you not want your character to die? Because eventually this campaign is going to come to an end, and we're going to move on and be playing something else that your character's not going to be involved, and it's just going to be a piece of paper or a memory at that point.
Yep.
If it's just because you want in your mind or your memory for this character to be living on forever, come and play. If you die or if you get taken out of the fight, we'll just consider that you've crashed and burned. And after the fight is over, you get up, dust yourself off, and walk off into the sunset. You don't literally have to die, but you can be part of the fight and play the game. And although I don't want to say, I don't know, not technically you've died, although you aren't in, you've I guess
you've been incapacitated.
Right.
Incapacitation, just like with Savage Worlds, does not equal death. It just means you're knocked out, taken out of the fight. And that's the thing too. Like, that's always that's always an option. You can, like, if your hit points get knocked all the way to 0, you're just knocked out. You're not dead per se.
Right.
You gotta,
So if this is a D&D style game, after you've failed your saving throws for your death saving throws or whatever, because you get 3 chances at it. Let's say that this is the style of game you're playing and you want to play it by the rules. After the 3rd death save is failed and the character technically should be dead, you just write her off out of the scene. You're incapacitated off to the side, and your character's done. Fight's over, away you go.
Mm-hmm.
Or what you can do, maybe they're new. I don't even know how old this person is, to be honest with you. But what I would suggest doing is running Trailer Park Shark Attack, man. You go buy that thing from our buddy Carl Kiesler, and it's literally a game where sharks it's a Sharknado. It's Sharknado, right? Essentially, they come flying in. There's sharks everywhere. You got a stack of characters, and you just pull one of the cards and pretend to be that character until he dies. The game is set up that you take one wound, you're dead. You got to pick a new guy, and I'm not sure if it's called a funnel or what kind of a thing it's called, but the gist
I
of
think
it,
those are called funnels.
yeah, you've got 30 some odd characters in a deck, and you just try and survive as long as you can. But at least that'll get her acclimated to dying and getting used to it, because it's really no big deal. Like, once the campaign ends, you got a piece of paper and a book. So I guess that's what I would do. Just find out what the reason is behind it. Maybe she doesn't want to die, or she's just fucking spoiled. Pardon my French. Because we're trying to keep the show PG now. Maybe she's just a spoiled kid and she doesn't want to hit the I lose button. But when you get to be a more seasoned or experienced player, you kind of realize that sometimes dying are the most memorable moments, man. Failure and death and dying are the things that become the funnest things to do.
Yeah, and also too, man, how many times did you ever make a character when you made Grabnor the barbarian? Grabnor the barbarian died. Then you have Slabnor, his brother. That wants revenge on Grabnor. I mean, that's always that wants revenge on on whoever killed Grabnor. That's
What else is cool too is Rifts has that built mechanically right into the game, and you can go out in a blaze of glory where you could kill the big bad evil guy, but you sort of sacrifice yourself. And it's a thing that happens, man. You you're a cyborg, you fly up, you crush your battery pack and send yourself to some kind of nuclear explosion, take out the big bad evil guy, and it's like a cool moment where you sacrifice yourself to save your friends.
Yep, and then you come back as you can come back as a ley line walker, or maybe where you can play again, not come back, but you can keep playing as another character, or somebody is like, or like, hey, I found the cyborg's personality chip. I'm going to slot it into this new cyborg. It's stuff like that, man. Death is like, it's a game, and it's never really, really, really permanent unless you want it to be.
Yeah. Question 3. Moving on. This one hits particularly close to home. It's a thing that I think I've been accused of, even though I feel it didn't happen. And the question is, when is it okay to change the game without player consent? To preface, I'm a big proponent of player consent and everyone being, okay, who cares about that? So the meat of it, he's planning out a game that's going to start in a medieval fantasy setting with the rules set the players know well. But he wants to take the major events to space and try out a new system that I think will be great for our group. So how this pertains to me is we played 50 Fathoms. I told and now they're anyway. So I told them I was going to play some 50 Fathoms. We started off playing 50 Fathoms. They built characters for 50 Fathoms. They were in a bar. Grandma shows up looking for the captain of the boat that these guys are all sailors on, and he jumps into the bar seconds ahead of them. He's like, "Come on, boys, we gotta go to the ship." And so he scoots off, and then immediately Grandma hops in with her little pirate ninjas. And they chase them out. We go on a chase scene. Everybody's got to get to the boat before it takes off. And then while they're on it, the captain opens this device up and creates a portal. That portal takes them to Earth. And if you know what 50 Fathoms is all about, there's a portal between the two planets. 50 Fathoms, or Charybdis, is basically having all of the water siphoned from this one planet to another planet, and it becomes a drowned world. So I thought it would be cool if we went from 50 Fathoms over to a more sort of space-aged Earth in the future when all of the water had been siphoned. And so we played, they call it Rifty Fathoms because Eric's Lamoureux's a jerk. But that's what I did. Here's the problem that Lamoureux pointed out that I have to agree with. Some of them took swimming, right? So they built their characters with swimming, and now they're on a place where there's no water. And so you got to sort of be aware of what your settings are. But this guy's taken it to another level. starting off in a system and moving to another system. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, here's the thing too. This is what I'm thinking. This isn't really changing the game. This isn't really. You don't really need player consent for all of this. That's not really a consent sort of issue as far as what I'm doing. Like nobody like to me that would to me asking for player consent would be like, all right, this is what I'm going to put your character in a very very uncomfortable situation. Like, are you okay with this? But like if you're just changing up like the scenario or whatever, I don't think it's consent. I mean, at the GM, well, the onus is on you to create like or to make sure that you have an environment to encourage like story building and making sure that you have that all set out. Um, and I don't really think it's yanking the rug out from anybody. If you're, I mean, I know the guy's saying that he's going to go from one system to another system, and that is a little jarring. But it sounds like to me this dude wants to start off in Pathfinder and then move to Starfinder. You know, um, but I like that. I don't think you're really pulling the rug out from under anybody. I don't think it's really that big of a deal if you want to move, if you want to take it in the space. I mean, some people are just along for the ride. Now I just talk about them like anything that you got to do, you got to just clarify with your group. You know, I was like, how do you guys feel about doing this?
Yeah,
You know?
I have a tendency to agree because really that's all it boils down to is, hey, how do you guys feel about switching over to this system for this part of the game? It seems to sit, it sits well in a space system. Being a guy that knows the system, I'll convert all your characters so you have the same feel in the next one, so you don't have to do it. And if you're not familiar with the new system, we'll figure it out as we go, and that's sort of where it'll go to. I find a lot of people get stuck in D&D and they don't want to move out of it for maybe, obviously because it's a good system and they like it, but yeah, I just feel like some people just have their jam, right? And for me, Savage Worlds ICRPG seems to be my new jam, and before it was D&D, and I never moved out of it.
And and I don't know, like if you just let everybody know what's going on, like, all right, so I'm like, I guarantee that this is going to be fun. And if some people like raise issue with that, then it's time for the adult conversation that that you're inherently going to need. But that to me does not sound like player consent, or like a player consent issue. You're not taking the character and doing something woefully horrible to it that you're going to add. You need to make sure that you're okay with the player doing that. All you're doing is just saying, hey, I'm just switch up the story a little bit. We might use some different rules here, but I got everything covered. It's not really a consent issue in my situation, and that's how I'm reading. I'm reading this as far as like when it's okay to change the game without player consent. I don't think this is a consent issue. I think somebody's just reading a little too far into this. Like, I mean, I appreciate them being very cognizant and being very aware of their players and wanting to not overrun them or whatever. But this isn't a consent issue. This is just you tailoring your campaign somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not a pee touching consent. It's more of a
No,
we're going to move in this direction. I still think that maybe it would be wise to ask your players, not so much to get consent, but to get the group's permission or approval to move it in that way. Like have everybody get on board. I would say ask.
Right. Yep, and that's also too. Like, I mean, ultimately, anybody's worth their salt is going to go ahead and roll with whatever the GM throws at them, or just be a good sport. Like, hey, I'm gonna, this will be fun. Whatever we do, we started off playing, we started off in Charybdis, and now we're over here into like Borderlands world or whatever. That's all fine and good, but this is not. It's not consent. Mm-hmm. It's not a consent issue.
So here's the next question. Moving on, community question number 4, Jay. How big is your battle map?
Oh, let me tell you here, pal. Are we talking Chessex?
Well, the thing is the question is, what battle map size do you use for encounters? And I'm going to say for me, depends. Oh, wait a second.
Same here.
And not the underwear for old people, but more along the lines of, it depends on what you're doing. I would suggest highly looking up the what is the rotisserie thing that the guy makes, the board that sits on the thing and you spin it.
Dungeon Crafter, his little ultimate dungeon terrain.
Thank you. Look up Ultimate Dungeon Terrain on YouTube. He's got a really cool idea that will work for most single room or dungeon encounters or something like that. If you're playing online, we played this game with Matt Stark one time. So funny. The map was wicked long, but we're playing it online. Like it had to be, if you were to print it off on paper, it would have been 7 feet long. And we entered the temple, and it's this super long temple that just goes like way to the other side of the mountain. And every time it was chase the guy down, we would run, he would run, we would run. We spent probably 30 minutes just running while he ran. It was so bad, but so fun at the same. And it makes those memorable moments. But yeah, it was pretty funny. So I would say, yeah, it just depends on what it is you're trying to do. It depends on how big it needs to be. There really is not a one thing fits all answer for this.
Yep. And also too, we're going to get different perspectives here because you do the bulk of your gaming online and I do the bulk of my gaming offline. So I have a whole box full of friggin' neoprene mats. Roughly the average size of them is about 3x3. But I have a lot of them. I actually have like this little 4 series that are 2x2, and I use a lot of those just because they don't take up as much room on the tabletop, and I can maneuver around. I also have a bunch that I use. 2x2 as far as on the tabletop, I like 2x2 and 3x3 are probably my preferred map sizes. Anything more than that, it's just gonna be a lot of table clutter. And also too, if you have like, I have 4 people playing in my game right now, and so there's 5 people sitting at the table. So yeah, I can only use like about a 2x2 or a 3x3 is about the size that I can use. Anything bigger than that, it's just going to clog up the table, and there's already enough table. I already have enough toys on the table anyway. You know.
Are you gridded or gridless?
These ones are actually gridless, and so I have rulers and I have a tape measure that I use.
Nice.
Yep.
I
actually got that from Lamoureux.
Yeah, I find gridless grid's good for battling and doing your strategic or tactical.
Right. But they're fantastic for war games. Yes.
Right, but when you're playing D&D or when you're playing role-playing games, I should say, rather than D&D.
Yep.
I feel now that, again, because I've played so much, I feel that it's better just to take the tactical portion out and just go with what's cool with the story. Like, you know, if you have a swordsman that's 8 squares away and can only move 6, and just give him the extra 2 and let him get in there and do some whacking rather than just have him move and sit there and not do anything until his initiative turn comes up. You gotta forgo these things just to make the story a little bit cooler.
I agree too, and also too, like it almost kills my soul a little bit when I see people, you know, like if you have a gridded map, like I also use battle, you know, the little foldable, flip mats whenever, when I don't have a neoprene mat. It almost kills my soul too when somebody says like, I'm gonna run up there and smack the guy, and they count the squares like it's a board game. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, man, you're just running. This isn't this is not hard and fast. We're not playing Pathfinder here. This isn't a fucking 5-foot step or whatever. You can you can whatever within the realm of reason. You move your character that far, and I just have a ruler or a tape measure just as a guideline. I don't really stick hard and fast with it. If you have like in Savage Worlds, if you have something like fleet-footed, which increases your pace, then then maybe where instead of 6 it goes to 8 or 9, and you can usually fudge that like a square or 2. So whatever's cool, man. That's what works.
Did I mention that we're trying to be a little more PG?
Oh, did I? Oh, I didn't know that.
No, that's okay.
Oh, my bad.
Just so you know, the memo. You can't say the word ruler anymore.
You got me.
Right?
Good job, man.
Last question, because we're at 7:59. We've been pumping it out for about an hour. We're going to hit this last one because it's kind of an important one, and I think out of all of the questions that I've chosen to answer, this one is probably one of the more important ones, and it's question number 5. How do you deal with the feeling like you are never prepared enough? I think this question strikes the heart of every game master that has ever sat down and played, because man, I have GM'd my entire life, 40 friggin' years of GMing, and every time I sit down to play a game, I feel like I'm not ready to do it. I get the butterflies, I want to call it off, but it's one foot after another until you sit down at the table and just get it done. Because I guarantee when you start to go, the butterflies will disappear. You'll get involved in the story and you'll start having a wicked good time. But I don't think there's a way that you can knock the feeling of ever being prepared enough, because man, I'm telling you, after as many years as I've been doing it, I still get wiggy with it. And you get that, the butterflies, the panics, all of that stuff still kicks in. It for me, it's never gone away.
Yep. It's funny you mentioned that too, because when I want to say it was well, it's been over 12 years since I've been GMing again, after about a 15-year break. And so I've been doing this pretty regularly, for a while now in this sense. There I used to spend a lot of time prepping, man, especially when I was running D20 Modern and everything like that too. You just kind of there would be like these little planned out, they would have little pre-written adventures, but like with any adventure, there's a lot of stuff you still have to add, a lot of stuff, and you still have to factor in. And and the thing about it is, I think ultimately why a lot of GMs feel that way, because we can't tell the future. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the damn players are going to do, next session. So we're just trying to like make sure that we have everything all planned out. Like, okay, if I know Johnny's going to, want to do this, and I know Timmy's going to do this, and I know Sarah wants to do this and everything. I'm like, oh God, but what if they do this? And yeah, and it gets a little overwhelming. But at the end of the day, man, it's just a game. At the end of the day, like all you can do is just make it entertaining, just make sure that everybody's having fun and make sure everybody's enjoying it. And like, you can always just do that, just check. That's what I usually do when taking a break in the game. I was like, everybody having fun. And I'm like, yeah, or, you can do that. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to feel like that, because you cannot prepare for everything, because you cannot plan for everything either. And, and you try to do that as a GM, you try to anticipate everybody's needs, but you can't. You can't. I don't know what the hell these guys are going to do. When I sit down, I actually enjoy that too, because it just makes for a more fun collaboration. But like you don't have any idea, and so you just get that feeling like oh man, I didn't prepare. The best you can do in that sense, man, in that situation, is just try to roll with it. Just be flexible and just sort of like anticipate. Yeah, you don't really have to anticipate, but if your players want to go, if you have everything kind of like suggested to go right and the players want to go left, I'd say roll with it, man. I'd say that's the best way that you can feel or overcome that feeling. And just roll with it, man. Don't have everything set in stone, and just be a little more flexible.
I like it when they're flexible. Just saying.
Oh, I bet you do. Like a Chinese gymnast.
There's a saying there somewhere that goes something along the lines of no amount of prep survives first contact with the players. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Somebody said something like that somewhere. All right. Well, go ahead.
And and the thing is too, man, like I don't try to be that player that just, I don't try to be the gotcha player that, it tries to wreck a GM story, or just like wreck or be the spoiler in a story, just, just to be an asshole. I tend to just, I want to go along with the story and see what's going to happen. But like, it's all a gut, like this, doing what you do is a gut feeling anyway. It's not an exact science, so, it's more gut feeling than anything. So you might never feel prepared, but I guarantee your players are, are still having fun.
That's right. Take that.
And that's what matters. Yep.
That's the main thing. All right, we're out of here. Let's. I'm going to hit this, and we're going to do another thing.
Yay!
Oh, I think that might be going out twice. Boop boop boo. Jay's voice is going to get quiet, but that's okay. That's it for this edition of the Murder Hobo RPG Show. We hope you enjoyed it. Now beat it.
Yeah, beat it. Get out of here. Yeah, and if you're interested in submitting 2 community questions, which will take forever for us to get to anyway, so you can hear us poke fun at you and not otherwise answer your question honestly, you can do so at murderhoboshow@gmail.com. Otherwise, send your hate mail to please.neworleans.
Wow, New Orleans is a dump. I'm sorry to say. I've been there.
I'll never go. I'll never set foot in New Orleans.
Why?
I'll never set foot. My ex-wife is from there, and that's all she used to talk about.
Oh.
And so, like, ruin a place for me. But then again, I had you tell me, well, like, I've not heard anything good about it anyway. I mean, like, if you want to eat, if you want to hang out and do Frenchy stuff, I guess it's fine. But you can have it.
If you're interested in submitting to community questions so you can hear us poke fun at you and not answer your questions honestly, you can do so at the... Oh, sorry, did you?
Yeah, that's my spot, man. I read that. You read the next one.
That's right. It does say Blue Jay reads. Man, I screwed that up.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
That's okay.
We don't care.
We roll with it.
You can also get us on Twitter at The Murder Hobo Show, on YouTube at The Murder Hobo Show, where I show you how to make three-dimensional battle maps for role-playing and tabletop simulator. The best online VTT, hands down, better than Fantasy Grounds, better than Foundry, better than Roll20, better than your mom's underwear. And yeah, right? You can watch me do this live on Twitch at The Murder Hobo Show, but be warned there isn't a set time for the show. It's random. My last video that I just put out today sort of shows you how to fix broken mods and stuff like that, where to find the links, because usually when you're playing on TTS, all of the stuff that you see gets downloaded to your hard drive, all the objects and stuff, and sometimes when you load it up, the links go dead and you get broken objects and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I show you how to fix that. Mm-hmm.
Look at you reaching out to the community.
Well,
showing people how to fix their stuff.
You
can find. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I love Tabletop Simulator so much. I would rather play on Tabletop Simulator than anything else. The three-dimensional aspects of Tabletop Simulator for me are far superior than having the ability to click on an item and tell me what it does. Do you know what I'm saying? Eric makes fun of my minis falling over all the time. That's a feature, not a bug. I'm just saying. Carry on, my dude.
You can find the things we discussed in the show notes, organized by most recent at the top, over at murderhoboshow.podbean.com.
That's right. I think that's it. I think we should talk. Well, we'll talk off the show about what we're going to miss because I'm going hunting here pretty soon. So... Other than that, that's it. Have a good gaming week. Beat it. We're out of here. Say goodbye, Uncle Jay.
Adios, suckers.
Yeah. The Murder Hobo RPG Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or that appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All items are used under fair use for educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo RPG Show. Copyright 2021. All rights reserved.